Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my lovely students. How are you all? I welcome you once again in Pakistan International School of Thais virtual learning class for the subject science. This is science for grade 6 and we are on lecture number 14. Our chapter is the air. And in the topic, we are going to see about some important facts about air, its importance, its composition, and some uses of nitrogen gas. And let's get started. Dear students, this is your chapter number 6, the air. In this chapter, we will see about the importance of air, composition of air, and some uses and properties of different gases which are present in the air. Let's talk the air. So you know about air, that air is a mixture of gases, and you know air is present everywhere. Air is present in the water, on the land, in the atmosphere around the earth, as well as in the soil, everywhere. So even in water and soil, air is present. Air covers the earth like a thick blanket, and this thick blanket of air is called the atmosphere. You can see in this image, in this graphics, that air is covering with lots of layers around it. If you see these layers, so these layers collectively called atmosphere, which covers the air, which covers the earth. And if we talk about, many layers of air are present in the atmosphere. If we divide those layers, so in your book that is described about 4 layers, but there are more than this. We'll talk about in a few minutes. These are: number 1, troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, and thermosphere. Because the name given sphere, because earth is like a sphere and it is circle and they are around the earth, that's why they are called sphere. So each layer of atmosphere mixes with the layer above. They are not separated. Up to the height of first layer, the other layer is going to mix with the layer and then starts from the first layer and then end up into the and merge into the next layer. Only the slowest layer of atmosphere has enough air to support the life. Where we live on the earth. So near to the earth is the first layer, that is called troposphere, means it is on the top of the surface of the earth. Troposphere starts at Earth's surface and goes up about 8 kilometers to 16 kilometers above the surface. So most weather conditions happen in this air. So like weather conditions, air, storms, winds, rainfall, all these occur in this troposphere. And if you see the aeroplanes, the hot air balloons, aeroplanes, they are all present in the troposphere. If you see, these mountains are up to this height. More than this, we are having another layer that is called stratosphere. If we see in detail, so this is troposphere, so this is tropopause. Pause means the mixing of troposphere and stratosphere. So this is troposphere. The second one is a stratosphere. It is about 50 kilometers from the Earth's surface. Earth's surface we just see from the surface of the oceans, uh, sea level, ground level, sea level, not from the mountains. So when we talk about a stratosphere, this is very, very important layer regarding the presence of ozone in it. Ozone is actually oxygen, but it is having formula of O3. O3 means more oxygen is present in ozone. So that makes the protective layer, if you see here in the stratosphere, not all stratosphere, but it just uh, in the stratosphere it composed of lots of oxygen, and this oxygen layer covers our earth like a protective layer, because this is a thick layer, so the rays of the sun which comes, they just strike with the ozone layer and move back. Not all the rays, ultraviolet rays or infrared rays, don't come and like and pass into the ozone layer and just come onto the surface of the earth. This is very, very important. But due to pollution, it is depleting, it is decreasing, it is destroying. So due to that, Earth's temperature going to be raised. And what happened? These rays reaches onto the Earth, and just we are having lots of diseases by these ultraviolet rays. These are skin cancers, allergies, eczema, etc. So the third layer is mesosphere, because it is in the center of these five layers, so that is called mesosphere. So as we go higher and higher, the thickness of the gases decreases. Troposphere, the gases are in more quantity. As we go in the stratosphere, except oxygen, other gases are in less quantity. So then we go higher and higher, other gases just decreases down. So the layer becomes thinner and thinner due to the presence of less gases. Next to the mesosphere, we are having thermosphere, and thermosphere is the layer which is the hottest one, because it is near to the sun rays. That's why it is hottest. So after this, it is having a height about 500 kilometers from the Earth's surface. And if we just go above than this, so we are having exosphere. Exo means exit, like this is outside all the layer, outside of all the layers, so there are no gases and nothing else here. So there is, after this, the space has been has been started. So as we go up through the layers of atmosphere, temperature and air pressure change. So what happened to the air pressure and what happened to the temperature, if we talk about from the surface of the earth, if we go higher in troposphere, so what happened? That temperature will be decreased. So as we can say that in the mountains, because mountains are higher in the troposphere, so temperature is decreased and there is cold environment in on the mountains, and there glaciers are formed over there. Okay, so air pressure decreased, because then if we go higher and higher, what happened? The layers of those gases, or the number of the molecules present in the gases, they get decreased. So air pressure decreases as we go up. So let's talk about some important uses of air, or what is the importance of air in our daily life. First of all, we breathe in the air. We cannot live without it. Definitely, we breathe in the air, and in the air, which gas we breathe in, that is oxygen. So definitely oxygen is present in the air, so we breathe in the air that is very much important for our survival. Every living organisms breathe in oxygen, including plants, and plants breathe out oxygen. They give out oxygen for our breathing, and we give carbon dioxide to the plants to grow. But remember, as we have read before, that plants also respire in the same way as we do. The next use or next importance of the air is needed for burning. Everything which we burn, any fuel and fire, we just burn in our stoves for cooking, and anywhere we burn, we need the air. And in the air, we need what? Oxygen. So oxygen helps in burning. We'll see in the next topic, inshallah. If we see the next use, we pump air into footballs, balloons, and tires of our vehicles. If you see this one, this is a pump, automatic, and just we blow into the balloons, into the footballs, into the tires of our vehicles, just to make our life easier. And you know what air, what we call to this air? What is the other name of that air which we just fill in the balloons and every like footballs and vehicles? In grade 5, you have just understood this topic. You have studied about the air as well. So that is called compressed air, because it comes out through a pump, through a very small nozzle from here. That's why it is called compressed air, and it is just to fill and compresses these type of rubber tubes and balls. If we see the next importance of the air, that is in our homes, we use air pressure to draw dust into the bag of vacuum cleaner. So this is also the use of air. But that is, we can say, the reverse blowing of the air by the machine. The air is utilized to just suck the dust uh, from anything, from the carpet floor, etc. That is also very important use of the air. Yes, the next one, fish and other animals in water use the air dissolved in water for respiration. So fish and other animals in water, how they use air, because air does not go directly into them, but what happened, there are some indirect ways by which dissolved oxygen come from. Do means dissolved oxygen, so it comes from, first of all, through air. Plants do respiration, plants do photosynthesis. So by photosynthesis, they release carbon dioxide, and from from photosynthesis they release oxygen, and from respiration they release carbon dioxide. So both of the gases are important part of the air, and they just dissolve into the water, and by wind these gases are cycling into the water, and the animals live over there, and animals and plants, they use those gases. So here in the plant, in the water, lots of plants are present over there, so the plants release oxygen as well as carbon dioxide into the water, and these gases are dissolved in the water, which are utilized by other organisms. Next one is plants use air that is called carbon dioxide to make their food. Yes, that is, we have studied in detail in photosynthesis, and we know that in the presence of sunlight and carbon dioxide, plants make glucose and give out oxygen. So plant use air and in the air carbon dioxide is present, and which is absorbed by the leaf, and they do photosynthesis process. Very important quality of the air, characteristic of the air, that is wind. Moving air is called wind. So differences in air temperature create winds. If there is a warm air, or the atmosphere or the layer troposphere is warm and the temperature is high, so what happened, this warm air just move up, and vacuum is created over there. To fill that vacuum, cold air from far away from the seaside or from other side just comes over there to fill that vacuum. By that, wind is like air circulates, and by that circulation wind is formed. So wind is a moving air actually. So there is like apparatus which is used to measure the wind, and by that scientists just having, they make a forecasting about the weather. That is only due to the weather changes that is happening due to the movement of the air, or that is the wind. So that apparatus is called a wind vane, and that is just placed on the uh, very tall buildings, at the top of the tall buildings, and in this way there are the directions indicated, and this moves around, and in which direction it moves, so it means the air blows in that direction. Now we will see composition of air, because in the previous slides we are just talking about like oxygen or carbon dioxide, but there are lots of other gases present in the atmosphere, in the air. So the first major gas which is present, that is called nitrogen. And except nitrogen, which is about 78%, oxygen is also present, which is in 21% in the atmosphere, in those layers. So carbon dioxide, that is 0.03 to 0.04% in the air, and that is very important gas regarding plants photosynthesis. Remaining air contains rare gases. So this one, this, and some other gases which are about 1%. So we can see here, this is nitrogen 78, that is almost 21%, oxygen, and 0.03% is carbon dioxide, and some inert gases, those are also called rare gases. Inert gases means they do not react with any other substance, do not react chemically. That's why they are called inert gases, and they are present in very less quantity. That's why they are called rare gases. Means rare means very less. They are found very less. So in the atmosphere, in rare gases, uh, argon is the main gas which is present, and that is 0.97%. And except them, there is one major component is there, that is called water vapors. And water vapors is almost about 1%. Not only water vapors, some dirt, dust particles, and uh, uh, chemicals are also present in the air. So, dear students, as in the previous slide, we have seen about the composition of the air. So here, the first very important gas, which is having lots of uses in our daily life, that is nitrogen. First, we will talk about the nitrogen gas. So nitrogen is the major part of the air. How much percentage? Yes, 78% is present. So what are the properties of nitrogen? That it is a colorless gas. It does not has any color. Did you find any color in the uh, mm, air, in the atmosphere? Any colored gas? Oxygen does not have any color. Carbon dioxide does not have any color. Also, nitrogen is colorless gas. It has no taste, definitely, because it is in more quantity, and we inhale it also, but exhale the same amount because it does not need it in our body. So it has no taste as well and no smell. It is slightly soluble in water, like it can be dissolved in very less quantity or very little dissolved in water. Nitrogen does not burn. That's why it is present in more quantity in the atmosphere, because it does not burn and does not support the process of burning. So that's why it is having lots of uses due to this property that it does not burn and does not support the process of burning. So which gas is used for burning purpose? Yes, that is oxygen. So oxygen is 21%, 78 is what? Nitrogen. So due to this property, we can burn in limited way. Otherwise, very little burn, very little spark can have a great damage, great explosion. This is only due to the nitrogen gas because it does not burn and does not support in burning process. And also it is not very active gas. So that is called as inert gas because it does not support, it does not react with other gases or other chemicals. So this is called inert gas, and due to these two properties that this gas is used in varieties of purposes in our daily life. So let's talk about some uses of nitrogen. Number one, nitrogen is used to preserve freshness of the foods. Yes, if you see your chips, yummy. So what happened? You saw that chips packet is half filled with chips and half filled with air. Yes, that air is not other gas, but it is nitrogen. So that packets are just filled with nitrogen because nitrogen preserve their freshness, and they remove oxygen from them because oxygen helps in rusting, in burning, in spoiling of the food, because oxygen is the major component of life. So that's why like bacteria and other microorganisms can grow and they can spoil the food which is present inside the packets and which we are going to preserve for longer period of time. That's why oxygen is removed out and nitrogen is filled in these packets with the chips to just preserve their freshness. If you see like this, yes, there is a pump, a nitrogen flush, and by which what happened, these packets are filled with nitrogen. And here you can see some food storage. Number two, as nitrogen does not burn, we have just studied before, it is used in explosive storage tanks. If you see, these are some tanks in which some material is stored. It can be explosive material, it can be some oil, petrol, diesels, or any other chemical. But before storing those chemicals, that tanks are filled with nitrogen because nitrogen does not burn and does not support in burning. It is inert gas. So it is used in the tanks to just avoid explosions in the tanks or in like that is for the safety purposes in the storage tanks. Otherwise, when they get warm and when they get heated, so what happened, that can burn and explode, and oxygen is removed from that, and nitrogen is filled in the place of oxygen, just to make it inert. Number third one is nitrogen is used in light bulbs to prevent the filament from burning up. If you see, this is the filament, that is tungsten filament. Tungsten is an element. So when we switch on the bulb, just this filament is burnt. When this filament is burned, so what happened, if without this glass bulb we burn that filament, so it just catches the fire. But to reduce and just to keep away this matter, so what happened, that nitrogen or argon, because both are inert gases, are filled in this glass bulb, so that that can minimize this burning process. If we see the next one, next use is fertilizers like ammonia, urea, ammonium sulfate contain nitrogen, and like the person is giving and spreading the urea, or that is called the fertilizers in the plants, and those fertilizers give nitrogen to the plants, because from the atmosphere plants cannot get it directly, that nitrogen, so it has to be dissolved first into the water. So after this fertilizer spreading of this, so they give water to the plants, and then this fertilizer is dissolved in the water, and then the plants absorb from the by the roots these type of minerals. And that's why the nitrogen is very important for the plants as well. And for giving the nitrogen, fertilizers are given to the plants, and they increase the fertility of the land. Next one is nitrogen is used in dyes. We see in the dyes in different colors. These dyes are used in textile industries. A huge amount of use of this and these dyes in textile industries and other dyeing industries, like some chemical industries, plastic industries, to dye different objects and different materials. As well as it is a very big part of the medicines, like quinine, that is used for malaria, that in the medicines of that, morphine is also having nitrogen. Lots of other medicines are having nitrogen in that. So where there is useful or like importance of nitrogen in positive way, there is a negative usage of that one, that nitrogen is also there, because nitrogen is a very very big part of the of explosives, of dynamites, of bombs, and like these structures which can make a huge damage on the earth as well as. But we can use this explosive um, in the good way also, like we can use for mining purposes, and we can use for digging wells and etc. for different purposes. Number 6, use presence of nitrogen in the air reduces the process of rusting of iron. If you see, because it is of 78%, so first of all, just understand this one, that rusting of iron is done by oxygen. So rusting of iron is done by the oxygen gas, which is 21% in the atmosphere. And when this oxygen reacts with iron in the presence of water, when there is rainfall, there is humidity, or more water vapors in the atmosphere, so the iron gets corroded, or that is called rusting. You see that brown film or brown layer on that iron. So that is the spoiling and damaging of the iron. But you see, not everything is and every time it does not happen, because in the atmosphere nitrogen is present. So nitrogen is helpful for reducing this process. Next one, last but not the least, I will see here the last liquid nitrogen is used as a coolant for freezing of blood and large computer systems. If you see, this is liquid nitrogen. It's having temperature minus 196 degrees Celsius, and that is used as a coolant agent, as a refrigerant for freezing purposes, for cooling the large computer equipments and systems, as well as that is used at wide range in the freezing of blood, and as well as some tissues and serum in the blood banks. Yes, do you know that presence of nitrogen in the atmosphere slows down the process of burning? There would be mostly oxygen in the air, and small fires would have caused great damage. If you see, because that is the bigger part of the nitrogen which is used for that purpose. Dear students, that's all for today. We have just seen about air and nitrogen gas. Wish you all the best. We'll see you in the next topic.